I was thinking about practice. Because last week Ajahn Sukito was here with us. He's already gone back to Thailand. And it's a good opportunity to sit with a monk. If you have another opportunity, you should take advantage of it or seek it out. But it reminded me of the first time I met Ajahn Sukito was, is everyone okay with English, by the way? I never really know. Because there's really no option. So I don't ask. Sukito asked because he could do either.
I think the one who doesn't probably know what
You-
you're asking.
Oh, okay. So then they're fine. If you don't know what I'm asking, then you're fine. So we were both doing a retreat at this center called Tushita. Some of you may have even been there in northern India. It's a Tibetan thing, and it was with Thupten Shodron, who's a Tibetan teacher. She opened actually the first monastery for women in North America. This is way back. Sukito was not a monk yet, so that's 1993, I think. And he and I started talking. But one of the things that impressed me, and it was really maybe our first or second retreat, it was really all new to me. I mean, that sort of formal, what you now call practice. But there wasn't a lot of small talk. It wasn't a silent retreat, but people would talk. It wasn't chatting or whatever, and there were no cell phones, so that wasn't a problem. And so you talk, but the greeting would be, it wouldn't be like, hi, how are you? How you doing? Where are you from? What do you do? All that sort of stuff that people, kind of judge each other with. It was more like, how's your practice going? That was the question. That was sort of the meeting question. How's practice? I always kind of said, oh, okay. But I didn't really know what it meant. I sort of assumed it just meant that whatever we were doing during that retreat, and then because I stayed longer, then that was sort of the model. Okay, well, what they taught us to do and the meditation and the learning and stuff, then that was the practice. So if someone was asking me how was my practice, then I assumed I had to answer in relation to those things I learned on the retreat, which made sense. The problem was when I wasn't in that center, then if you were to ask me how my practice is, I wouldn't say okay. I'd be like, what practice? I know that I had it at some point, but now it's completely gone. And maybe the next time I get back to a center, I'll be able to answer that question. So my idea of practice was pretty limited or incomplete at that time. And it still feels pretty limited, but it's not, at least I know now, it's not limited to that center. So I've done a little bit of expanding. And other retreats and centers I visited along the way were helpful also in adjusting that question and sort of informing it, which is what Sukito asked somebody last week when someone mentioned, I feel kind of stuck in my practice. And he said, well, what's your practice? And the normal thing to do is to answer, yeah, it's what I do in meditation, in formal meditation, which is what I would have answered back in Tushita. And often that's sort of the answer, depending on the context. You know, if you have a teacher asking you specifically. So if you're in a Zen center often they say, okay, what's your practice? They mean specifically, are you working on shikantaza or on a koan? And which koan are you working on? And then you have shikantaza is breathing meditation. And koan is using these kind of verses and specific teachings that were handed down as a sort of meditation. So, and then you work specifically with that, with the teacher. So that question is a very pointed and specific one. And you need to have an answer, otherwise you're out the door. Right? And you're wasting your time and the teacher's time. But in general, that's not how we answer ourselves. But we should have some sort of idea, shouldn't we? What is your practice? What is my practice? What is practice? What do I mean practice? I mean, the word is good because it means that it's something you have to repeat. As in practicing piano or a musical instrument or any type of skill you want to develop. You know that, you're not at a final stage when you sit down, right? Like you have to work on it and keep doing it. And you go through waves where it's easier and where it's more difficult. Right now I'm just talking about musical instruments, right? But all of that idea of practice is really important. Because if you're practicing piano and you expect that you're going to have the sort of, Beethoven sonata done when you sit down, of course, what are you thinking? And yet when we do meditation, we kind of get disappointed when it feels like, it's pretty hard right now, right? So what is practice and what is your practice? Do you ask that question? Take a moment and consider. Just take a moment. You're in an interview now with your teacher, and your teacher asks you, what's your practice? And your teacher is there to help you. And you need to be completely sincere, because otherwise you're wasting your time. What are you going to say? And then the next question you want to ask, or you want to answer is, what do you need help with? What's difficult for you right now? What obstacle are you meeting now in your practice? So take a moment and consider that. Where do you feel stuck? That's an important moment. So take a moment now and allow that to be present in your mind. So the other day, I read a definition of practice from he's like a non-Buddhist teacher, definition of practice, and it kind of, because it wasn't related to a specific meditation, I found it sort of opening. Here's what she wrote. It was Mia Dewar. Practice is an activity that you do on a regular basis that helps you cultivate a sense of awareness, joy, equanimity, resilience, and compassion for yourself and others. Resilience is the ability to bounce back, to come back when you fall down. You fall down, you get up. That's resilience. An activity that you do on a regular basis. Okay, practice again and again and again you know, on a regular basis. It didn't say how often. That's for you to decide. Is your practice your formal practice? And I'm talking about formal practice because formal practice means that there's some form to it. That's why we say formal, right? What makes it formal is that there's an actual form that you identify as, you know, this is special now. This is a special activity I'm doing, and it has an intention behind it. Okay? Now, we have all sorts of activities with intentions behind it. You can watch TV, and the intention is not to cultivate resilience, joy, awareness, compassion, okay, for yourself and others. It may be just to relax and forget about the day for a little bit. Okay, that's an activity with an intention, right? Most activities have intentions behind them. And what makes your spiritual practice a practice is not just that you do it on a regular basis, because we do a lot of things on a regular basis, like brushing teeth and going to bed. Those are activities. You know, going to bed has an intention behind it. You want to rest so that your body and mind can heal, right? But that's not spiritual practice. Okay, so regular basis of formal activity. But what's the intention behind it? She wrote here, helps you cultivate a sense of awareness, joy, equanimity, resilience, and compassion for yourself and others. That's a big list, and that's tall. And those are kind of covering the Brahma Viharas of, you know, metta, karuna, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Yeah. Those are really, they're called the immeasurables. The immeasurables. Those are qualities that in Buddhist practice are priceless, have no measure to them. You can never do them enough. You can never practice enough. That's what it means that they're immeasurable. So we often talk about our meditation practice being like, you know, breath or koan or awareness and mindfulness. You know, how mindful are you? Or how distracted are you? But then we're missing the heart of the practice, aren't we? Right? We're missing the immeasurable aspect of the practice. Your practice is for the sake of cultivating loving kindness and compassion, joy and equanimity. Is that happening? That's what we have to ask. Okay? You may be able to sit for an hour or half an hour, but is your heart more full of love? Do you recognize the pain of others and do you vow to try to relieve it in the world? Is your life more motivated by that intention to increase happiness and decrease suffering? Is that what is getting you up in the morning? Is that why you wake up and you say, I have another opportunity to develop my practice? You mean like just be mindful of, I don't know, the leaves on the ground? That's nice and helpful. Okay? It really is. But samadhi, which is, you know, paying attention to present moment in a calm and focused way, that's like first stage. And important. You can never skip that at any stage. But some people get stuck. Where? At what we think is mindful. Mindfulness without compassion, what is that? It's ego. That's what it is. Okay? It's wanting to feel like I'm focused and, you know, present. But I am present. When there's love there, it's not I am present. It's presence for the sake of increasing happiness and decreasing suffering. That's why the four immeasurables are the heart of our practice. When we're asking what is practice, that's an okay question. But a more important one is, where's the love? You know, where's the compassion? Where's the sympathetic joy? And where's the equanimity? You can be mindful all you want. You know, that's important. And that's first base. but you gotta open the heart. The heart of the practice is vast and immeasurable. It goes beyond the mind. And that's what these qualities are about. You know, it's basic in the Dharma, it's really basic. But it's so basic, meaning it's fundamental. If you want to understand what practice is about, you got to explore how the four measurables are alive in your day-to-day practice. So invite those more when you ask that question. What is my practice? Where am I stuck? What do I need help with? The answers usually are right there. Right? I want to read a couple of passages from Suzuki Roshi, where he talks about practice, talks about Zazen. There's one that Yonatan put up on the email, the Facebook email notice this week. It was quite good. It's real fundamental. Okay, so in this book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which, you know, I've been kind of going back to for many years, it's sort of the most classic collection of short Zen essays written in English. So it's something that you'll never finish with. So in this beginning chapter, he writes about posture, and posture in Zen is very important. But the physical posture is just part of what we mean by posture. And this is why I like to share what he writes about posture. You should not be tilted sideways, backwards, or forwards. You should be sitting straight up, as if you were supporting the sky with your head. This is not just form or breathing. It expresses the key point of Buddhism. It is a perfect expression of your Buddha nature. If you want true understanding of Buddhism, you should practice this way. These forms are not a means of obtaining the right state of mind. To take the posture itself is the purpose of our practice. When you have this posture, you have the right state of mind. So there's no need to try to attain some special state. When you try to attain something, your mind starts to wander about somewhere else. When you do not try to attain anything, you have your own body and mind right here. As Zen master would say, kill the Buddha. Kill the Buddha if the Buddha exists somewhere else. Kill the Buddha because you should resume your own Buddha nature. Doing something is expressing our own nature. We do not exist for the sake of something else. We exist for the sake of ourselves. This is the fundamental teaching expressed in the forms we observe. Just as for sitting, when we stand in the zendo, we have some rules. But the purpose of these rules is not to make everyone the same, but to allow each to express his or her own self most freely. For instance, each one of us has his own way of standing. So our standing posture is based on the proportions of your own bodies. When you stand, your heels should be far apart as the width of your own fist, and your big toes in line with the center of your breasts. As in Zazen, put some strength in your abdomen. The most important point is to own your own physical body. If you slump, you will lose yourself. Your mind will be wandering about somewhere else. You will not be in your body. This is not the way. We must exist right here, right now. This is the key point. You must have your own body and mind. Everything should exist in the right place, in the right way. Then there is no problem. So, one of the things I appreciate from Roshi's writing and his simple, direct way is that even though we're following rules, those rules and the form, even though it's a form that I may teach you as a certain way of sitting, it's actually aimed at you being yourself. And that's really the essence of meditation. That you're not meditating in order to be someone else, but rather to fully inhabit, as he said, to own who you are. Because if you can accept that fully, then you can find greater ease. The struggle is a little less. You know, you don't like things in your mind. You don't like things in your body. You like some things in your mind. You like some things in your body. You don't want the things you don't like, and you want the things you like more. What does that do? Where's the peace? That's the opposite of metta, of loving kindness. When you're judging your body and mind, that's not metta. No, true love doesn't judge. It just wishes, may you be happy, and may your happy not cause any suffering. The wish for metta, of happiness of others, sometimes we may think, okay, well, if I'm wishing someone to be happy, and I'm wishing an enemy or someone who's a criminal or a violent person to be happy, well, if what makes them happy is, you know, killing and stealing, well, what kind of metta is that? Well, obviously we're missing the fact that happiness that produces suffering is not real happiness. It's selfishness. Feeding the self and increasing happiness are not the same thing. Because the more we feed ourselves, thinking that it's making us happy, the more we feel we need. Happiness is a state of not needing anything except who you are and what you have right now. That's why in this meditation, the posture is to fully be yourself, to accept that fully. That's the emphasis on posture here, and that's what he suggested. And when you can have that great acceptance, when you can fully inhabit your body and mind, you really have arrived. You don't need anything else. And what kind of mind is that? A mind that has let go of desire. Desire to be or the desire not to be. Those are the two poisons. What's that like? And so when you sit and you can fully accept, what is that state of body and mind? In another place, Roshi says, Zazen is the direct, Zazen is sitting meditation in Zen. Zazen is the direct expression of our true nature. Strictly speaking, for a human being, there's no other practice than this practice. These forms are not the means of obtaining the right state of mind. To take this posture itself is to have the right state of mind. To stop your mind does not mean to stop the activities of the mind. It means that your mind pervades your whole body. Consider that for a moment. Your mind is not, during meditation, going to stop thinking. But you can realize that your mind is more than your thinking. Consider that for a moment. Your mind is more than your thinking. Don't limit your sense of self to the thoughts that you have. That's why the posture is key here. Because the posture expands our sense of mind to inhabit our whole body. So that mind and body are not two different things. You're not aware of your body. Your mind and your body are one thing then. And that's the true posture. That there's no separation between body and mind in the posture. So to have a good posture in the body is to have a realized mind. Not based on what you're thinking, but just the ability to be here and to be aware and to own who and what you are right now. How does that relate to metta? Well, think for a moment. If loving kindness is the wish that I and others should be happy and not suffer, when you sit and you can just accept who and what you are right now, not want something else, that takes a certain amount of suffering away, doesn't it? Because the suffering to be something other than what you are and to not be something that you are is a painful one. The judgment there is unhappy. You let go of the judgment and there is a greater peace. So this is where metta and posture meet. They meet in that stillness and the acceptance. So again, your zazen, your sitting meditation is not aimed at, and your practice is not aimed at cultivating some certain special state of mind, but to let go of seeking any state of mind. There's no state of mind you should be seeking. There's just fully inhabiting and being aware of what and who you are right now. We kind of know this intuitively. Like, you know that if you love someone else, you're not loving them for what you hope they'll be one day. You're loving them for who and what they are now, if it's real. I mean, it'd be kind of odd to say, I love your potential. You know, I love your future. That'd be kind of odd. So don't do it to yourself. You're not going to have real metta for others if you don't first base it on your present, not your potential. You don't love the potential Buddha, you love the real Buddha, right? The Buddha nature that you exhibit in the form and in the posture. And your practice simply is to remind yourself of that truth. It's not to create something new. It's just to remind yourself of what inside deeply you know and you are. So this brings us, and I'll end with this, and if anyone has a question, please ask. What we call the three pillars of Zen. Which are great faith and great doubt and great zeal or determination. And that great faith, right, is the ability to, no matter where I am or what my situation is, I can come back to this posture of Buddha, right? And that posture of body-mind is a realization in itself. I can assume this posture. And it's the posture of awareness, of presence. It's the posture of being present, aware, and realized. So that's the great faith. No matter what time of day, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm going through, I can return to this form. That form will open up the truth of who I am. That's Buddha. So it's great faith in that. Great doubt. The great doubt. Well, we read that in that Heart Sutra. That odd verses, that odd, chant, the Heart Sutra. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no colors, sights, sound, smell, touch phenomena, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, all in negations. That's the great doubt. The great doubt is, what do I know? What I think, is that true? Is it real? the way I'm living my life, and based on all these beliefs, are these beliefs really solid? You know? The judgments I'm making again and again of myself and others, are they really factual? You know? Do they hold? Do I ever pause and doubt all these thoughts that are going through my mind? All the criticisms and all the praise? All the worldly concerns that are driving me? Do I ever stop to consider and doubt? Like, is that what it's about? Is that my practice? Are all these thoughts my practice? What is it achieving? Great doubt. You know? And the great determination is when you really don't know what to do, you take the next step. Right? When you're stuck, there's a koan, a really famous one, and this applies to each one of us, and especially the stuckness. When you get to the top of a 100-foot pole, jump. That's the koan. Nuts. That's right, it is crazy. When you're stuck, when you don't know what to do, when you feel like you can't go forward, and you feel like you can't go backwards, what do? You continue. You continue. When you don't know where to go, you don't know who to ask, and the faith and the doubt have just failed you, what do? You take another breath. That's what you do. That's the jump. And that returns you all the way back to the great faith, because it's huge faith in the middle of all that. Right? Take another breath and resume the form. Those three pillars will, hold you well. Okay? They will bear the burden of this life with grace and strength. Grace and strength you don't even know you have. You don't need to. Just sit. Before we finish, does anyone have a question about the practice? Or anything related?
Can you repeat the 4 intentions?
The 4 immeasurables? Also called the Brahma Viharas in Pali. So there is metta, which is loving kindness. There's karuna, which is compassion. And loving kindness, the real beauty of these intentions is that they are simplified so that we can actually use them. Loving kindness is the wish for happiness. May you be happy. May I be happy. But real happiness, okay? Compassion is the simple wish that you will not suffer, and that I will not suffer. The third one is sympathetic joy. And sympathetic joy means, very simply, that when someone else is happy, you're happy for them. Their happiness is not a win-lose, a zero-sum equation. It's like, anyone else's happiness naturally increases mine. I'm happy that you're happy. You did well, you succeeded, you got what you wanted to. It doesn't take away from me. I'm happy for you. All of these are aimed at kind of being a little less selfish and a little more altruistic. It's a long road. And the fourth one is equanimity. Equanimity means resilience. That's resilience. Is that it's not that you're going to keep an even mind all the time, but when things do throw you, you get back up on your feet. That's it. Okay? You can accept it, and you can accept when it is terrible and painful. and you can accept when it's really happy and joyful. And you get back up again. You resume the form. Sometimes people are going through a good time in their life, and they think, everything's okay. Like, I don't really need to practice. I mean, practice is for when it's hard, right? So I can get some calm and peace in my life. Think piano. Okay. It's like you don't take off a year because you're having a good year. It's like, you resume the form, you inhabit the form, you take the posture of body and mind, because that's just the way to be real, and not lost in the dream of our desires.
I heard someone describe the Brahma Viharas as the diamond that start from loving kindness, which leads to compassion, which is, let's say, it can be very unsettling if it's unbalanced. If you have too much compassion, so all of the worries and pain of other people becomes unbearable. And then it also, loving kindness produces sympathetic joy, which can also become unbalanced and kind of distorted in a way. And then equanimity is the meeting point of sympathetic joy and compassion. It's like a balance. So I thought that was a nice way of describing it.
Yeah. That's good. But it is true, often when they're taught, the Brahma Viharas, they're taught as, if you look at these four, one of them doesn't match, and that's equanimity. Equanimity is the one that is really what the other three are standing on. If you don't have that balance, that ability to, accept the changes in fortune. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes win, sometimes lose, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes pain, sometimes pleasure. If you can't accept that, then the love is going to be pretty unstable and easily disappointed. And the compassion can be easily overwhelmed. So yeah. It doesn't mean you feel less with equanimity. That's also a mistaken idea, is that equanimity will make everything sort of bland. Like it's kind of a damper on life. No. Equanimity is that resilience that, you can, feel it, and then you come back to your baseline. Like you have a baseline of balance that you keep coming back to. And that baseline becomes very stable so that you can experience the extremes and not be afraid of them. So let us finish with 1 minute, and then we'll recite the Bodhisattva vows, which are, again, vows. Vows are kind of odd, archaic word. These are intentions that we invite. These are intentions we try to reinforce. Right? Have to do with compassion. We are on page 7.